Hello, I'm Wally, and our topic today is choosing between dementia and death. Why I chose what I chose. And I'll just say a few things to start out. What much of what we're going to cover, at least some of it, is material that's on my website. And what's written here, where my name is, the alzheimersconversation.com, just so you can be aware that that material is there. Plus, this session is being recorded and will be available uh, after the session. I put things on my website because since I was diagnosed in October of 2022, I'm mostly overwhelmed with a lot of things, so I needed a place to put things. So that's why everything is going to be there. I'm only going to talk today. I'm really going to intentionally talk about myself. I don't want there to be any feeling that what I'm saying and what I went through and the decisions I made are things that I'm suggesting for somebody else or advocating for somebody else. Absolutely not. That's it's all completely individual. And what this is really about in many ways is the value of being open related to death, relating to dementia, relating to some of the topics we're going to talk about, uh, much more than any particular position that somebody might take. So, on the idea of the topic of being open, just several weeks ago, Reimagine had a session, Cover You in Flowers, and a woman who was shown there during that session, Grace, really did a very powerful discussion about the importance of being able to talk about things that are normally not touched. So she said it very well, and we're going to carry on here what she's saying. Really, the more open it is, the more valuable it is in the way I'm seeing it. Also, I'm only going to cover the things in my whole dementia journey that relate to the topic of this conversation, choosing between dementia and death. I'm not here to talk about my whole dementia journey or anything like that, but rather I'm going to go through and tell about the flow of what happened to me, the flow that comes up to the point of uh, making the decision that's the topic of this conversation, choosing between dementia and death. So those are some of the background points. Let me get into the flow, the way it happened. October of 2022, I get the diagnosis of dementia, complete shock, completely going black, not in any way capable of connecting myself to dementia. It wouldn't have it wouldn't have even occurred to me. And my own my feelings at that moment and for the period after that was only about death and dementia. That was the impact of that shock. Um, then after that, something happened that turns out is going to be very much part of the whole flow, including choosing between dementia and death now. And that is, while I was in the black, while dying and dementia were what were present for me, I also realized at some point I'm also still living. Suddenly, instead of everything being one thing, black, dementia, there were two things. There was living and dying. I was dying because with the dementia, but I was also still living. So there's living and dying. And then I realized they're not two separate things. Living and dying are affecting each other. And that uh, knowing that I'm dying was making my living more immediate. My dying is affecting my living, and my living uh, allowed me to look at my dying and make my dying more meaningful. So, gosh, there's a lot going on that I hadn't, when I was just in the black, it wasn't apparent. And the phrase I came up for that with that is I saw living and dying dancing a duet in me. That's what I really felt. Living and dying are constantly moving and constantly affecting me. And then it occurred to me, well, what's my role in the thing? And I felt what I can decide what music I play. So the phrase is, when living and dying dance a duet, what music will I play? And I'm going to go through this whole process and see that that phrase has been active through everything, including up to 1 or 2 days ago as I'm making this decision. So I have a role, and when the music I'm going to play, maybe it will affect living and dying's duet that they're dancing, or maybe not, and it'll just affect me. But I am playing music that I'm playing, even if it just affects me, then it's affecting how I'm relating to this whole situation. And as this flow continues, I'm feeling two different directions to what's going on in my life. On the one hand, there's there's what I call the golden moment, my golden moment. With this dementia, I'm feeling a lot of release. I'm having a lot of good feelings from the dementia. And I'll go through them in a few minutes. I'm not leaving it vague. But that's going on with dementia, that I'm feeling things that I hadn't felt before. And there are things I'm enjoying feeling. And those feelings are just coming to me. I'm not looking for them. They're happening to me. And at the same time, I'm realizing I don't really know anything about dementia. So on the thinking side, more than the feeling side, there's things that I feel like I need to know. I've been diagnosed with dementia. What's going on? What is dementia all about? So there was a real feeling. I really knew this isn't a feeling. I knew I have to find out more about dementia. And again, both of these two sides, the golden moment of feelings and this need to know exploration on the thinking side, they're going to come back as I'm making my choice between dementia and death. So let me describe quickly a few things that I'm feeling and that are coming to me as feelings. For example, when I'm first diagnosed, and maybe other people are familiar with this, the doctors or the medical, whatever it is, they label it as MCI, mild cognitive impairment. That's the phrase that they use. So they say, well, mild cognitive impairment. And what's happening, they're labeling me impaired. I've become an impaired person in the eyes of the people who are relating to me. And my feelings were far different than that. They're labeling me as being impaired, and I'm feeling wherever it's coming from. I feel it's exactly from the dementia. I'm thinking less and I'm feeling more. And this is new for me, and I'm I'm exploring it and I'm enjoying it. So I didn't like the label MCI, mild cognitive impairment. So I created my own label, MEE, mild emotional enhancement. Oh, that's exactly what I'm feeling. So they're labeling me one thing, and I'm labeling myself something different as MEE, mild emotional enhancement. And I created that label, that phrase in that label, and I used it for myself. When the topic came out, what's going on with me? I said, well, I have MEE. And then the conversation would flow from there. And I needed, I'll just say that things kept happening that kept flowing along. And I'm discovering there's a lot of words and phrases that are missing from the English language of things I'm feeling. So that's what dementia, I have to say, I don't blame dementia. I thank dementia for that. I'm living along, and here's the word mindfulness. And given where I'm at that moment, I say, okay, mindfulness, that's half. Where's feelingfulness? It didn't exist, so I created it. I even created feelingfulness.com. which compares, puts them side by side, which is where I feel that they should be, mindfulness and feelingfulness. Then my guts, I'm feeling a lot of things, and I'm referring to it as my guts. So my guts then come along and tell me, uh, my guts are giving me all kinds of, I'm not asking my guts are telling me all kinds of things. And one of the things my guts tell me is to create my tombstone. And that was really strange because I plan to be cremated. I don't plan to be buried. Why on earth do I need a tombstone? So I didn't do it the first day. The next day, my guts tell me again to create my tombstone. And that's the last time I doubted my guts. So I created my tombstone. It took several weeks. And that was, what am I bringing to the world? What, what is it? That's my tombstone. The one brief sentence that describes, I decided that would be what it is that I'm bringing to the world. And so that's it. That's my tomb. That's who I am, what I'm about, what I'm bringing to the world. So I'll just quickly read it here so you get a feel for what it's about. It's to feel situations I'm in and to bring my energies to make the situations richer for the people they touch. That's what I defined as my tombstone. And shortly after that happened, I thought, I'm still living. I don't need to put it on my tombstone or have it be my tomb. It should be my life stone. That it should be my guiding light for how I live my life, because I went through a couple of weeks effort to figure out what it is that I'm bringing to the world. So this is all flowing. This is the feeling side of what's going on with me, which is the dementia side. And taken of itself, if it didn't even occur to me at that time, death. There wasn't a choose between dementia and death. Dementia, I'm exploring dementia. Dementia is doing good for, I, I was glad to have dementia around. So if I asked myself at that time this question, choosing between dementia and death, great, let dementia keep flowing. That would have been my answer at that point. At the same time as I'm feeling all these things, I need to find out about dementia. Dementia is the only thing I knew about it is it's like somebody who, I don't remember the word, who's, with spit coming out of their mouth and they're kind of crazy and stuff like that. So in order to find out really directly, not just to hear things, I volunteered at an old people's home. I joined support groups. There's groups at the local art museum and botanic garden of people who are impaired mentally. There's a choir. Uh, there's a choir for people with dementia here in Denver, the Second Verse Choir, and I joined that. All kinds of groups and ways that I can and exploring, reading, so that I can have a much better idea of what dementia is all about, how it advances, and stuff like that. I also gave a lot of talks and wrote a lot of things, and each one there's conversations. So I'm really hearing directly from people who are either people with dementia or caregivers about what their experiences are. At the same time, I'm talking to the neurologist, getting test results. So this is like the reality side of what's going on. I also looked in the Bible and I could go through it. I'm not going to do that right now because it's not appropriate. There's no need to get into that kind of detail right now. But I found that the Bible talks a lot about dementia and has what to say about it. So these are all things that are going on for me as I'm doing this part about learning about dementia. And at that point, where it was in terms of choosing between dementia and death, the good side, the good part of dementia was very much present in my life, and the the bad part hadn't come yet. But what this research had done was make me aware of where dementia goes. So I wasn't there yet in terms of some of the problems that dementia is gonna bring, but I'm starting to become more aware of how dementia develops, what are the symptoms, what are the signs, what happens. So that's what's going on in choosing between dementia and death. I'm clearly choosing dementia, the good side of dementia, but I'm becoming more aware that there is the other side, the bad side of dementia that hasn't hit me yet. Um, and but I'm now much more aware that that exists. So what is then going to happen over the next period of time is there's going to be a shift. And I get it. And one thing I want to point out is choosing between dementia and death. I actually needed to start choosing between parts of dementia and paying attention to the parts of dementia that I'm in, because dementia is shifting. Death is going to be death, but dementia is constantly changing and has different symptoms and goes a little more, a little less. And what's happening is I'm starting to feel some of the things that I had read about and heard about of what I would call the bad side of dementia. And I can give examples of that. There are physical things going on that are the effect of dementia, and I'm starting to feel some of those physical things. And there's something that comes up with dementia. Gosh, I was reading these stories about how a parent suddenly doesn't recognize their own child. It's horrible. And the child's sitting there, and the parent is screaming at them, who are you? You're a stranger to me. And at that point, I felt that happening. I lost the ability to identify faces and attach names and how I know somebody. It that dropped very, very fast for me. But so I knew enough about dementia, and I was feeling it enough in dementia to say, wait a second, I'm starting to feel the bad side of dementia coming on. That's exactly what happened. So the fact that I was feeling the good side and living the good side, and the bad side of dementia was starting to become active for me, that's affecting. I'm still choosing dementia over death. It wouldn't have occurred to me then to think of death so much, but it's the process, and that's where choosing feels sort of black and white. Which one do I choose? But it's not black and white. In the way I was living it is it's flowing along. And I'm becoming aware of where it's going, and that's scaring me. So I'm paying attention to that. My feelings are still very active, but my connection with dementia is shifting. So I'm starting to explore that more, and I ask, well, is death starts coming up now that I've heard so much about dementia? And I start looking into what are the opportunities for death, and medical aid in dying, which is one approach. If somebody chooses death in a situation like this, medical aid in dying is not available to people with Alzheimer's, with people with dementia, because the conditions of undergoing medical aid in dying can't be done with Alzheimer's. So if there's not an opportunity to bring myself to death, then I don't have anything to talk about. In other words, there's not a choice here. I'm in dementia. Then I kept researching and found the Peaceful Pill Handbook. And the Peaceful Pill Handbook offers a whole range of ways for me to choose my own death that have nothing to do with MAID. and there's a lot of different ways that are listed there with how to do it and what the advantages and disadvantages of each method of getting to death are all there. And this is so then I realize now there is an option for death. That's the first time I actually looked into it and found out that yes, I can have a choice. Really, our question, choosing between dementia and death, that there's the dementia, the good part of dementia and the bad part of dementia, and there's death. So now that's the first time I'm putting together this picture of uh, what the situation is and how my situation is advancing uh, and really declining. I could tell that the bad parts of dementia are getting more apparent, and that's where I'm going in terms of also thinking about dementia and death. I'm still strongly with dementia, but the possibility of saying, no, I'm getting to that bad place of dementia. No, I won't go there because I now know enough to know in reality it's a bad. I don't want to be there. I choose not to be in that place. Now it's a matter of monitoring where I'm at with the dementia and how it's developing in order to know what's going on. And there are signs there of what's going on. Those different activities I was in, the groups, the choir, I've dropped out of all of them. As part of what's going on with me, social connection has become much more difficult. I, it's a lot of effort and I'm not able to absorb it properly. So that's an example. I'm feeling like I'm in decline there. Physically, I'm in decline. I feel my brain not only less memory, but my brain is working more slowly. I'm not accomplishing things the way I used to be able to do it. The tests they're giving me keep coming back, and they're showing decline also. And there's a lot of inputs like that it's moving. Again, it's not choosing between dementia and death in a black and white sense. It's I'm paying attention that my condition is declining towards that bad dementia that I'm now familiar with, and so that means I the possibility of thinking about death is increasing. I'm having conversations, for example, with a neurologist who said I should start preparing myself for what's going to happen next because she's seen people in my condition who have declined very quickly. And if that happens to me, I should be ready with my next step. So again, that's an input I'm getting that is making death more present in what I'm about. And just to go back to that image from the very beginning, when living and dying dance a duet, what music will you play? My music is changing during this whole process. It's it's not purely the joy, the way I was feeling of dementia to begin with. It's now getting much darker in very many ways. Uh, as I say, physically, mentally, socially, all these kind of things are going downhill for me. So up to now, I've chosen dementia, uh, and I keep living with dementia in front of me instead of putting it behind me. I'm still active with dementia and still feeling the good sides of dementia, so I'm still very attracted to that. But I'm more and more feeling that the horrible side of dementia is becoming more apparent in my life, and 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 that's going along, and to the point where I I have I have reached the point where the music I'm playing is much darker. Again, it's not exactly choosing between dementia and death. If it was black or white, I would have one decision and be done with it. And I can understand that people do that. People who do not accept the possibility of ending their own life, it's not a question because that's their answer. I'm going to go with dementia no matter what. Fine, that's up to a person to decide. Also, if a person says, I'm not going to touch this question, I'm going to let life go along as it's going to go along, that could be considered choosing dementia because that's what's going to happen no matter what. Or somebody who says, okay, I want out before it gets too bad. I'm choosing death. So I got to the point where I could understand how somebody could clearly choose one of these choices and act on it. And I feel like I'm getting closer to that point constantly. And yeah, that is reflected in certain ways. Preparation. What is death? I haven't decided on death, but I'm in that direction. And yes, I have preparations in place for feeling like I may well get there. I'm ready for it. So that those kinds of activities are going along. And even while preparing for this session, uh, and I'm laying things out maybe in a way that I hadn't done before exactly. My guts come along and they say, well, even this question, choosing between dementia and death, what happens when a person in my condition, and this comes up during conversations, how does a person with dementia who's in decline know when it's the right time to end their own life? There is no sign of it. There's no, the only thing that has to be is assuming I choose death, I have to do it too early. I have to end my life while I'm still able to. And I've heard of cases where that didn't happen. People intended to end their life while they were still able to, before the dementia took over their life, and they missed it. They waited and waited, and then dementia took over, and they weren't able to end their life. In one case, a woman said that's what happened to her husband, and she ended up being his caregiver for 11 years. And she knew he didn't want that, and she didn't want that. But that's the kind of thing. So when is the right time? So even over the last few days, my guts are talking to me. I'm saying, well, yeah, this death thing is coming. The option to end my life is coming closer. So my options start saying, wait a second, there are other choices. For example, how about deferring that action of ending my life. And let's say uh, I go along, and when I really feel dementia is setting in, let's assume I'm going to have some lucid days within that feeling of dementia, and I can use one of those lucid days to end my life. In other words, look, my feeling isn't how am I going to enjoy the good side of dementia anymore? It's how can I play to get whatever time I can get still and still be in life. And that could be a matter of years. So the song I'm singing is constantly shifting to this point where I am now that says, can I wait longer? Can I keep life? Can I keep living now even though I'm in this terrible condition? So that uh, that's where I'm at now. So in this question that we have here, choosing between dementia and death, what we've just seen is a lot has gone on. At first, it wasn't a choice. because I liked what dementia was doing to me. Now it's not a choice because I see dementia is going to destroy me and destroy my family together with me, the way dementia knows how to do, etc. So, in terms of talking about choosing between dementia and death, it requires a lot of, for me, it has required a lot of paying attention and a lot of acceptance of reality. I have not argued up to now uh, with or done denial. I hear a lot about it. If there was a layer of denial in what I had done, and I had spent a lot of energy on denial and trying to think, are all these things real or not real? They would have really hurt me a lot. I would have put a lot of energy into not accepting the reality and instead, well, what is the reality? But I didn't do any of that. I was willing to accept because I can feel my feelings and I'm getting the information I'm getting about what death is all about. So I'm not in denial at all. But this whole process, which has gone on since October 2022, has required a lot of attention and paying attention to what's going on with the dementia side of what's going on, and that's where I'm at now. And I'm at this point where I'm trying to figure out, is there any way I can stretch this out a little more? Would it be okay to wait until I get into dementia further and and then hope that a day of lucidity will come along when I could end my life at that point? So th this is what I hope I've done is number one, talk about my story a little bit. But the real goal is very much uh, like what Grace did, is to by talking about this and opening up this conversation, saying it's okay to talk about. It's not okay. It's tough. It's very tough to talk about, but it's better talked about than not talked about. That's the objective of what I hope to accomplish by this session today. And I hope that's a message that has come through by being open in the way that it's been right now. So why don't I'll pause right there, and I what I'm really interested in, if we say we're about halfway through, um, perhaps we can stop the recording so that now we can have a conversation for whatever discussion can come out of this. Uh, People who have experience with dementia and uh, whatever your thoughts are, and especially how can we make conversation about dementia and death and this dance that's going on as open as possible.